Hello everyone and welcome to another video. In this video we are going to be discussing search. We are going to add the ability for our term projects to search for posts that are already created in our database, right? So what I have here is basically an empty, at least a broken search button does nothing. I can type some stuff here, but it doesn't do anything when I hit the button. So what we want to do now is add the ability to search for posts that are stored in our database. But before we can do that, we need to talk about how we can get this data out of our database in the most flexible way possible. For what we kind of know now, if you play with some of the SQL, make it a little bigger, is we can run a select statement, right? Select star from posts, right? If we do this, we get all the rows in our table, right? It's kind of what we see here. Right? We have ID, title, description, the photo path, the thumbnail, active, when it was created, and the user who created it. Let's say we want to find individual posts, right? You can use the where clause. This allows you to filter rows. So we'll do where title is equal to test. And then we run it. And we only get the title that equal to test, right? Which does work. But this is not very flexible because this requires our users to know exactly what they're searching for, which means that they must know all the titles that they're looking for, which is not always the case. So we want a more flexible kind of search. So what we can use is instead of doing this equality, at least this equality check, we can use the like keyword. This actually allows you to do pattern matching. So if we're going to do, like test, which means is title like this word test here exactly, we get the same results, or actually I get an error because I made a mistake. Whoops. What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Of course I have an error in my single statement. Why? I guess I don't. Interesting. I guess it didn't update. So in any case, I get the same thing as I did before. And then what we can do is we can add kind of, wildcard symbols that kind of make this more flexible. So if we want to find, titles beginning with the word test, we can put it on this side. So it's test and some other stuff, right? And we get all this, right? So we have test title and all stuff. So basically, these are all the titles that begin with the word test. And then if I put it on the other side, I get all the titles that end in the word test, which is just these. Okay. And then if I want to do test as just a substring, which means I have test somewhere in my string, my title, I can do this, which is kind of what I get, before. Okay. So you can use any kind of regular expression you guys want for your searching. I'm simply just going to use a substring kind of searching, but we got to modify this because we need all the information for our front page to do the search correctly. Just having the post table isn't enough, and we don't want to do double queries where we fetch data from one table, use data to fetch it from a different table. That's not a bad approach. Just it's doing extra work when we have a piece of software who does all this kind of heavy lifting for us, which is the MySQL server. And if you're using MongoDB, you can use the aggregate function, which does the same exact thing, where you can aggregate multiple documents together, so you can kind of have one set of results instead of fetching multiple ones. Okay, at least if you're doing a foreign key kind of setup. So what we're going to need here is a join, and I believe I talked about joins in the MySQL video a long time ago. So we're gonna have to retrofit this to kind of do joins. So what I'm gonna do is I like to do my SQL statements on multiple lines because it looks cool. Well, it's cool to me. It's easier to read for the most part. So we do from, and then I'm gonna do from post P, so I can reference the table as P in my select statement, where title like this, right? And then eventually in our code, we're gonna have to change this to a variable. And you're gonna notice this is actually gonna be quite annoying to do because you can't just do a simple question mark. You have to decorate um, the variable correctly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the select statement. So I'm going to grab the post ID, the post title. Notice I'm doing p.title and p.id. That way, when I grab the user ID, instead of just doing ID, I can do u.id. And you'll see how I'll do that in a second. You want to make sure that there's no ambiguous names in these select statements. So post.title, p.description, p dot thumbnail. I'm not going to grab the photo path because for the front page, I don't want to show this big old image. U dot ID, and this is not going to work for a second, but I'll fix it in a second. And U dot username. And what these are the information of who made the post and the actual name of the post. So this is not going to work because I don't have any references to these two columns here. This is from actually a different table. But what I am going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to join the users table, users U. So now I can actually reference these just fine. So I should be able to autofill if I were to. And the ID. Okay, there goes. It's a little slow. There you go, ID. Okay. And then I need an on clause, which says how do you relate two rows in these two independent tables. So we're going to join on the foreign key of the post table if it's equal to the user ID in the user table. Now you can use these aliases for tables in the join clause, I think. Okay, we can. We should talk about this in the last video. But just keep in mind they're not very safe in the word clause. You cannot use them. Okay. So if I rerun this, I actually get the ID of the post, the title of the post, the description of the post, the thumbnail of the post, and the user ID of who made the post and the actual username. And this is all I really need for the front end. To be honest, you can probably leave off the username. You don't even need it if you don't want to. But we'll leave it there because we're going to use the same query to do like 5 different things in our front end. So what we're going to need to do with this is basically put this in our JavaScript code and show results on our home page that basically have these results. Okay. So what I want to do first is I want to do the front end first. I said we always in the back in all the other videos. So let's do the front end first for our code. So we'll go to our handy dandy Visual Code. I'm going to hide this for a second. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's reformat this so it looks prettier. Actually, I'll talk about it now. What this function is basically is a function that creates one of the sections that holds my post on my front page. My front page is basically a grid. So if I were to go back to here and inspect this main content pane is actually a grid. And it's basically a 4x2 matrix, which can grow row by row. So I have those cards basically fill each one of these squares nicely. It's my own version of Bootstrap card layout, which isn't very good, but I want to do everything with raw CSS and not like Bootstrap, so that's kind of what I had. So that's kind of what I'm going to be filling here is these grid items. Okay, you don't have to use grid for your website. I just like grids because it gives me a nice little structure for working on the project. Okay, so we'll go back to the code. So what I need to do now is I need to fetch or at least do the actual search logic for my program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do document.get element by ID, and basically I'm going to grab the text bar icon. Okay, and what this really is this text bar icon, which is somewhere up here, right here, is this little div tag that I have on my homepage, which basically represents this little icon here. So when I click this, I want to run search. So what I'm going to do now is hook up a function to it called onClick. Okay. So we'll do text bar the icon dot onClick. We'll just assign a function called run or fun run search. Okay. Now this is going to be an error because this function doesn't exist, so I'm going to define it above me. You can do it all as one statement if you like, but I'm going to do it this way. We're not going to take any parameters, so we can leave it as B. So in here is where I'll do my search functionality for my home page. We're going to do this asynchronously. We're not going to trigger any page refreshes for our application. So what I want to do first is I want to grab the search term. Okay, equals document.get element by ID. We have it as search text, I believe, and we'll do dot value. Okay, maybe a little lazy, but it'll work. So if we go up here and make sure this still is correct, search text input, everything's cool, so good. Bam. Okay. Now with this, we want to start performing a search. So I'm going to have let search URL. You can do this all in one statement if you like. I'm just going to do multiple variables. Equal to, and it's going to be HTTP / localhost. Now, I would not recommend mixing the word localhost and the IP 127.0.0.1 because you're going to cause Chorus to complain because it does see those two domains as different. You know, they both in at the same spot as localhost, of course, is gonna kind of tell you that no, you can't do it. Okay, and then we have our search, and then basically what I'm going to add is a search term. Okay, oops, and this will basically give us our URL to send to when we're ready. So we do search term, search URL. Go back to our front end. We'll see what it looks like. Console, refresh, just in case. Search. So I don't type anything, just nothing there. I type it again. So this is going to be our search term. Okay? And now we're just going to execute our search. And keep in mind, I have no backend, so this is not going to work. But that's okay. Like I said, we're to the site planner first. So we know our search URL works. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do fetch, and we're going to do search URL. No options. We don't need them. We do a then block. Now this is going to give us back some data, and then we're going to need to do some data.json because it's going to give us back a weird, not a weird, but a request object. So we're going to use this to kind of convert it into an object we can use to parse through and kind of build our front end with. Okay. Then we'll have another then block, right? And this will be data as object. Okay. And then we'll add the catch for fun. We'll say error, and we'll just console log right there. We're not really going to handle it. We'll just do it. You guys should do something to handle this error if this doesn't work. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as this. But you guys should change this to something better, or at least show something so the user knows that it failed. Do not just error it like this, because how many of you guys actually check the console log in Firefox or Chrome when your search is found on other people's websites? So don't leave this here. Change this to something. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do console.log data as object. Okay, just leave it at that. Okay, so if I were to run this, okay, there it is. I refresh. I'm going to search. I get reference error. Error is not defined. I mean, error is not defined. It's fine. Okay, but the GET request is going to fail in either case. We're going to get a 404 not found because the route doesn't exist. We come to our backend code, right? Our front end code, sorry, our node terminal. We see get this post search and in our term undefined. So we need to add this route. Okay. But why is error undefined? It's not undefined. Huh. We'll see what happens when I run this again later. Just see that this is undefined. Okay. So let's go to our code. So what we need to do now is we have kind of our front end code to do it. This is almost what we need to do. We'll need to add some stuff to this code to actually do the front end rendering, so it actually shows our post. Okay, but what we need to do now is actually add the routes to do search. So we're not going to do an app.js because that's not something you should do. We'll do it in post. So this is only in post right now is uploading. So don't need this. We don't need this. Okay, so I'm going to add another one. So in this one, I am going to add the ability to search. So we're going to do router.get, and then we're going to do our search, which is, it's going to complain. Leave me alone, node mod. So it's going to be search, and then it's going to be the way I'm going to do it. So you could do it as a URL encoded kind of search, where the URL you send is basically going to be post search and question mark, search equals search term, if you like. And then you can access this through the query parameter of this request object. But I'm going to do it as something like this, where it's just search term, right? Either one works. I'm just going to do it this way. So my node mod is going to go kind of crazy. So just ignore that for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the slash. I'm going to do a colon and call it search term. Now, what this will allow me to do is on the params property of the request object, I can access this value, which is basically the text from the front end of my code, because I've appended it to the URL this way. Okay, so basically, this is saying that this is going to be my URL. Then after this slash is going to be some value that I don't know what it is yet. It could be an ID, a search term, or whatever. but I can access it with this name here. Okay. Then we'll add our usual requests response dot next objects. Oops, like so. Now we can kind of start running our query. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let search term equals requests dot params, which is where this is at, search term. Okay. Then I'm just gonna console.log search term just to see what I get. And my node mod keeps crashing because syntax. Right. I'm gonna do res dot and send, but we'll send back nothing just to see if this works. Okay. So if this works, I should see a search term pop up here. Okay. So we'll refresh this. We'll hit search. Get a reference there in the front end. And what do I get in the back end? I get AAZ, which is what I wanted to see. Okay. And if I were to change this to just, request.params, so I can see the actual object, when I run this again, I don't know why this is doing it. Go back to here. You see the param object. So this is what we're going to use to get the search data at the back end. So now that I have that, I can get rid of you. I'm going to keep this here so it doesn't, actually I'll get rid of this too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my MySQL workbench. I'm going to copy out the SQL. So we'll let SQL equals this. So put some single quotes, and then a slash. Okay. This way I can have my SQL on multiple. You don't have to do this way. It's just the way I like to do it. Okay. So now the issue becomes is this little guy here. So unfortunately, what you cannot do is something like this because when the MySQL package replaces this with the value, it actually will do something like this in the SQL, which means the single quotes become a part. The single quotes become a part of the query, and you're not going to find anything. So you can't do this. So what you're going to just do is this: put a question mark, okay, and then we'll do a search term. We're going to transform it into something useful, and what we're going to do is we're going to add the percent signs to it. So search term plus percent sign. Okay, and that way our single quotes are around this whole thing and not just around the search term. Okay, then we'll do db.query, and then we'll have our SQL statement, and then our search term. Okay, then we'll do then to do our results, and results fields, then some work. We'll add the catch block just for fun. Well, you should actually add it no matter what. We'll pass this to our error handler just in case. Now, in here, we don't need to do anything special with our results. Again, if you're like, well, all I'm gonna do, I don't even care if they're empty or not, is I'm gonna do response.json and then do results. I'm just going to give them to the front end. Okay, let the front end worry about making them look pretty. Okay, so if I were to, well, you should start kill Node and restart it. Node mod's doing it for me to make life easier. So basically, you have to npm start, which would restart it. Okay, but I'm using node mod, which allows me to do just this, and it works just fine. It also restarts my application every time I change my JavaScript file, so I don't keep starting and stopping. Okay? If you want to install it, you can do the node mod package here with the -g, so it's global, and then you can just do node mod and then bin /www, which is the start script for your guys' application. If you want, you don't have to. Right? So, anyways, let's put node mod back on. So let's see what we have. So this is our search code. We have our SQL statement, which contains a join clause. And then we have the term we want to search for. We run our DB query, and then we respond with the results. Okay? If anything fails, we go to our error handler, which is an app.js, which is this little guy here, which is going to send an error HTML page to the front end. Okay, so let's see what we got in the front end when we run this. So we'll refresh. We'll do this. And then we get an array of 5 items. And you can see here I have 5 posts, all matching my search query. all posts. Let me see, there you go. Okay, this is kind of the post I have. Okay, it looks like they're all kind of the same one. I would say they're the same post, but you can see that the images are different as well, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to make it appear on our page. Okay. Before I do that, I want to fix this. If you notice, the IDs are all the same. And if you look at our MySQL database, where you at? Pull you up. It's actually all the user IDs that are being posted. So it's actually giving me this one and not giving me this one. So we want to actually have the post IDs, not the user IDs. So we're going to fix that. And I'm just going to remove this from the query itself. So if we go back to our code, we don't actually need this for our results. We don't really need the user ID or anything in terms of the display. We only need it for here, but we don't have to specify it in the select clause to actually use it down here. Okay. So now when we run this query again, I get the correct IDs, which are the post IDs. Okay. And then let's fix that error because I think I know what it is. Maybe I don't know what it is. Where's the Ekidus? It should be this right here, not that. So you always missing characters. Refresh it, you run it, and you're cool. The error is gone. Right. And then if you want to, like I said, you can inspect the GET requests as well by looking at these. See the parameters, which are none. Response is all the objects, which is nice. So you got all this cool stuff. Okay, caching, timing. Not much timing going on besides waiting 2 milliseconds for my data. This is not ideal numbers because my server and my application are on the same computer, so there is no distance to travel to get these results. Okay, so now that we got all that, let's make this look pretty by adding a bunch of posts to it. So this function up here, like I said before, basically represents my card elements for each post that I'm going to show on my front page. Like I told you, it's going to be in the grid system. Now, in here, since we're not using any template HTML or dynamic HTML, to make life easier, I'm actually going to embed the post ID inside the ID of each post. And then the reference is going to actually be to an image post route, which takes the ID. And this is actually just going to be a route we'll add. I'll probably do this in another video in a second. Well, we're just going to add so we're going to return a page that renders a very specific post. The ID will be in the URL. Then we'll fetch the post information for that page when that page renders. So I'm going to embed the ID in here so I can use it later for my individual posts. Okay, and you'll see what it looks like when I render all the posts. Okay, so I'm going to use this function. So what we're going to do now is take all of our data right here. I'm going to have a let HTML, which is an empty string. I'm going to use the inner HTML to do this, which you can use the DOM API to do it as well. And we're going to call our function, which is basically going to build all of our HTML. All of our HTML for our post that we just searched for. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do data as object dot for each. I'm going to do for each post. In our results, we're going to do HTML plus equals create card. We're going to pass in post, okay, and make sure that all these match the column that you return in your post. Okay, so don't change the column names if you don't want to. As long as they match, you should be fine. Okay, so that's what we'll do here. And then what I'm going to do is do document.getElement by ID. Now that main grid in my front end, which is this guy right here, this center panel, is basically called main content. So I'm going to grab this and then fill it with a bunch of HTML dynamically. So we'll go back here. We'll do getElement by ID, main content dot inner HTML equals HTML. So I'm going to overwrite what's already there. Okay, and this will basically, hopefully, so if everything works correctly, this will show a bunch of data on my homepage. Okay, Pictures may not work because I deleted a lot of images out of my project, but I didn't remove the records from the database, so I'm getting a lot of broken images, and some probably won't be broken. Okay, so let's see what we get. Let's refresh, search. We probably get an error, so let's see what we get the error. Data as offered did not a function. Uh, that's unfortunate. Should be a function because it's just an array of rows. Unless I didn't do anything as I should have. I did JSON. So let's see what this is to make sure it's the correct type. Nice little debugging going on here, so that's always good. If I knew how to type, it'd be easier. Console log data as an object. And I think it's kind of nested, so I may have to extract it out, which is very, very unfortunate. So let's run this again. Come back to here, we'll refresh it, run a search. Basically, no, it's an array of objects. That's uh, unfortunate why it's doing that. Unless I typed for each wrong or something. So let's go back and see what went wrong when we were typing it. So let's go back. I can't spell. That's why. At least I can spell. Just can't spell programmatically or the programmer's way. Capital E on for each. Camel case. Yay. So let's go back to our code. Refresh. Search. And basically, what I have here are the posts added. Okay. Now some of mine don't work because, like I said, I deleted the post. I get the 404s for some of the images. Right. We can search for test. I think none of them work. So there you go. Actually, I have a few posts there. So I got 9 posts returned, and I have 9 cards. Okay. If I search for nothing, just do a space character. What does this give me back? It gives me back a syntax error because I don't think my thing returns the right stuff when it happens. So yeah, so you can't search for a space, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. Let's say we search for an A, which gives me back a row of 30 items. So on a large request, this is basically what my page looks like. But if you notice, they're all kind of evenly spaced. It's well organized. So this is what you guys should aim for in terms of layout and structure. The design could be better. Mine's kind of plain and kind of I'm not a big fan of this, but I just did to get it done. But the structure is there, okay? And if you look at the URL at the bottom of the page, you have a link to image post 11 and stuff like that. So when I click this, I should go to the image post. Now in this page, you're just going to return an image HTML page and then parse this URL to allow you to grab individual images. But I'll do that in another video because this one's getting kind of long. It's already half an hour. I don't want to do too many things in one video. So that's kind of what we can do. But to set up the next video, I'm going to fix this route. This should be post/image post. So it looks a little better. Okay, and we're going to leverage its post ID, which is embedded in our HTML, to find posts. Okay, and then if we have time, I'll add handlebars, which will make this so much easier. We won't have to do things like this in our code. We can do it all in the backend. Okay, so this is how you guys can add search to you guys' pages. Okay, AD, RIS gives a bunch of posts. I don't have a way to do all of our posts, I don't think. And don't show this. If a search result doesn't work, either give them like the most recent 8 posts or give them something that's usable. Do not just say nothing or leave it blank. You even don't even want to say no post or nothing found. Even Amazon, when they don't have a search that they like that you gave it. So let's go to Amazon. See what Amazon has. I got Ghostbusters. So no results found. So this is not ideal. Maybe it's because my search is kind of crazy. You do want to find at least show something that's useful. This is not bad. This is fine because at least tells you what's going to go on. But if at least in Amazon's case, if it was something not as bad, maybe let's see, wet. I don't know what to put here. Wet towels, wet books. I don't know. Books that talk. You get something. I see get baby books, right? But if your search results doesn't return something you like, or at least enough results or any results, just give it back a default set of results that they can actually view something, right? I probably shouldn't have done this in Amazon because it shouldn't expect this to work. But if you type the word, I don't know. They used to do it where they would give you back, hey, look at these. But in any case, don't show. The point is, don't show a blank page. Okay, show something. Okay, and this is better than nothing because you can go to the help section, you can contact all that kind of stuff. So show something. And I believe if you're signed into Amazon, it actually does show something because it has something to feed off. Okay, so that's how you guys can do search. And then we'll talk about how we can fill the homepage with default data in the next video. Okay, so see you guys in the next video.